Hello, Dr. Ron England here, and this is debugging in JSFiddle using JavaScript in the Chrome browser. Yeah, it's a bunch of things that I just put together, but the reality is that I'm trying to teach you how to deal with the debugging tools inside of Chrome. So I'm inside of JSFiddle, and I've actually created a little HTML application here. And what I've done is I've got a text box and a button, and when I click the button, I'm going to call a JavaScript function. Now I've changed the JavaScript load type over here to no wrap inside of JSFiddle, so those people who are used to JSFiddle, you can see that. This is going to apply anywhere. And if I run this, if I'm going to click run, it isn't actually doing anything. If I click me, nothing happens because, well, there's a lot of reasons. But the big reason we're going to look at first is, notice I come over to the right, I click, I go to more tools. You can't see developer tools, but the shortcut is Control-Shift-I. The reason you can't see the developer tools is, well, let me just move this over and then you'll be able to see it. Click here, click here, click here, developer tools, and that's going to bring up the developer tools. And these are the developer tools in Chrome. They're very similar in the other ones. And if I go up here to the up tab, I can see console. And on console, it says uncaught reference error. Do function is not defined in HTML input element on click. And well, kind of expected that. This function doesn't exist, do function. So if you were actually going to get rid of that bug, you would have to come down here and then you would need to create the function. Function, do function. And notice I just did that right off the bat. I was able to discover that I had a function that wasn't defined. And in this function, I can go ahead and then say document get element by ID. And make the ID output dot inner HTML equals the number was, and I'm not going to actually complete anything there, but I can actually later I'm going to pull the number that I got from the input text box. All right, so now if I run this again, and this is something that you might want to actually note, that when you're in JSFiddle and you start adding stuff, you may need to save and then set that as the base and then reload the entire thing. So because what happens is you add lines, the debugger gets confused with the lines that you're on. Now if I run this and I click, okay, notice, okay, well, nothing happened. What's going on? Well, we can go over here. We can again bring up, and I can use the Control-Shift-I at this point because that's the shortcut. But I can come up and say the console, okay, look, cannot set property inner HTML of null. Now you're going to get, so a lot of people that are students are going to go like, wait, what's null? I don't get this, null. Well, this makes perfect sense. It does, because output doesn't exist. So if I do document get element by ID, well, document get element by ID is going to return null because there is no element with the ID output. Therefore, I need to create it. So I will go ahead and create this div ID equals output. And now I have a location and I have an output named I have a div with the ID of output. If I run again and I click me, now it says the number was. Now it didn't get the number, but if I come over here now into the tools again and I bring them up, I will notice that the console doesn't have anything in it because I didn't make any mistakes. Isn't that nice? Now I can actually come over here and look at the actual source code too, but we don't need to do that right now. That's another thing that's in. The debugger is extremely rich and capable. But let's do something else here. I'm going to use a function that I just threw in there, actually a command that I just threw in there called debugger. And I'm going to add another line of code and say document.get element by ID. I'm going to do the output again. I'm also going to do the inner HTML, only I am going to make it wrong. Notice I didn't capitalize correctly. Equals, and now I'm going to go up here and in my input type box with the ID number, I'm going to do document get element by ID input, because input is the text box, dot value. Now if I run this again, Okay, and I'm going to do a save and set as base. I'm going to now again run again, and I click. The number was, but I didn't get anything there because what's going to happen is I now notice that this thing has actually got a little dot here and the debugger is underlined. But what's happened here is if I have my developer tools up, and I'm going to do that, if I bring my developer tools up, it's going to stop at that debugger. So this is really, really crunched trying to fit this all on one screen. I'm really sorry about that, but I'm going to actually hit the run again, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the click function again. And now the debugger actually stops in the source window at the location of the debugger. You can actually see where it is. That's pretty awesome. The execution stopped at debugger. I can now go ahead and I can step to the next line. I can step to the next line. And again, it just tossed out. If I go to console, you notice that I've got another thing right here. There's a value property. There's some errors there. Well, those errors I can actually clear out if I want to. But I'm going to. But one thing that you should note was that if I close this again, that the inner.inner HTML. Well, that's not correct. It's .inner HTML is a capital, case sensitive. So this should now be a little bit better here. I'm now going to go ahead and save, set as base. I'm going to run again. I'm going to reload. The reason those other errors showed up in that last one was because I did not reload the screen. If I go over here to the debugger window again, go more tools, developer tools, and bring that up, the console's going to have, okay, it's got a fair error to load resource, but that's not the error that we're worried about. Let's do a run. Let's do the click. The number was, okay, now it did stop execution, but we don't get to see what that execution looks like. So again, I've got to pull up the developer tools. Now I'm going to go ahead and run again. And now I can go ahead and click the click me, and it did the debugger that stopped right there. And now you can see I can jump to the next line, and I can now go to the console window, see what's going on. I can go back to the source window. I'm not going to spend a lot of time debugging it. The point is not me debugging. The point is that you've got access to these debugger tools. So I complete the execution of that, and if we look at the console right there, okay, it says cannot read property value of null at do function. So the property value of null. So what that tells me, if I go back, now I'm actually going to do some debugging, is that when I did document get element by ID input dot value, well, the value of the document get element by ID input was null. So, and the reason is because this is called ID number and not ID input, which is a very common mistake, that you intend to use a certain name and you used another name. I can easily fix this by going one way or the other, but if I make this now input, and these are, I know, these are really simple and basic errors. They're 99% of the errors that you actually see. Save, set as base, run. I go back in. Now if I just hit click me, and now I've got the 5. Notice that it replaced the number was with the actual value that you had input there. Well, why did that happen? That's another type of error, because you really wanted to say the number was and then the number 5, but that's easy to fix because all I have to do is make this a plus equal, and now I do run, click me, and the number was 5. That, in a nutshell, in less than 10 minutes, is the bulk of the debugging that you're going to want to be able to do in here. Your ability to reason, look through the code, and understand what you're doing is going to be able to do the things that are going to help you fix bugs. The tools are going to allow you to look at the information. If the debugger, now, in JSFiddle, it's not true of all web pages, but in JSFiddle, you're going to have all those old errors show up as you make changes. The way to fix that, save, set as base, reload. Remember that execution. Save, set as base, reload. I'm clicking reload out here and save on the outside. I know you can't see that. But reload the window, and now you're actually on a brand new window. I bring those debugging tools up, and everything should be nice and clean, ready to start debugging from scratch. Sorry about the size of the window. I'm trying to cut this video in a size that you can all see. Hopefully this helps you get started with real debugging using JSFiddle and using the Chrome debugger tools. But remember, all the debugger tools look essentially the same. There's a lot of other features of debugger tools that you're going to get used to. Great. Start learning them. Play. You're not going to break it. It's a browser. Look at it, see how things work. Talk to you later. Good programming. Dr. Ron Eaglin out.